If you're considering buying a gun holster and you're looking at Kydex, here's a quick rundown on some terms and features you need to know to make a good informed decision about an initial holster. So here on the table I've got these 9 holsters out here. We have a couple different types. These are all generally the same material. There are a couple of different brands of plastic that are widely used, primarily Kydex, Boltaron, and Holstex. For your purposes as an end user, they're very similar, and the small differences between them are not major for your purposes. There are 2 basic types of holsters that I have here on the table. All these holsters are formed out of a single piece of plastic. These holsters are formed out of 2 pieces of plastic. This is what would be called a pancake holster. It has a front piece and a back piece, which are fastened at the edges using metal eyelets, which the maker installs and flares to permanently attach the 2 halves together. This style is what's called a fold-over or a taco. It's initially molded and then usually the center is heated and the holster is folded shut and then hardware is attached. Taco holsters can be worn inside or outside the waistband. Pancake holsters are typically worn more outside the waistband. They tend to be a little bit bulkier. But you also get 2 attachment points. Belt loops mount here and here, as this holster shows. So you'll tend to have a little more stability on the belt. A quick rundown of holster anatomy in terms so you can understand what's being discussed when holsters are being compared. On a holster like this, there are a few key pieces of anatomy, a few key terms that I get asked about as a maker. People ask, what is a sweat guard? Really simple. This is a sweat guard. It's the piece of the holster on the inside facing your body that goes up along the slide to protect your body from being rubbed by the serrations, buttons, knobs, levers, things on the side of the slide. This is what's called a full sweat guard. This would be a partial sweat guard. The full sweat guard goes all the way to the top of the slide and covers the full slide. A partial sweat guard usually stops somewhere between halfway and 3/4 of the way up the length of the slide, so that the part of the top of the slide sticks up beyond the sweat guard. Whether you have full or partial is largely a question of user preference. On the holster, this is your trigger guard area. This is the muzzle of the holster. This is usually called the mouth of the holster, and this is the sight channel. Some holsters will have an open muzzle, an open end, so that longer guns of the same model can be used that would just stick out beyond the holster. Other holsters like this would have a closed muzzle where the plastic is molded over the end, and you can't put any longer firearm through there. It won't pass through. Also, we have what's called retention. Retention is the physical hold that the holster exerts on the gun. In most cases, on a holster for a gun that doesn't have a light on it, your retention is almost always molded into a dimple in the trigger guard area, usually front and back. Some holster makers do all the molding in the front, none in the back. Doesn't really matter as long as the gun is held securely. Depending on the model and the holster maker's preference, some holsters are designed to be user adjustable and some are not. This holster on the bottom has adjustable retention. There's a rubber spacer with a screw, and as you tighten that screw, it compresses these 2 pieces and increases the amount of hold that the holster exerts on the gun when it's fully inserted. This holster has fixed retention. There's no gap, so you can't adjust it in or out. When it comes to you in the mail, this is the way it's going to fit and you can't change it. Some customers prefer adjustable, some prefer non-adjustable. These have much lower maintenance. These you can fine-tune to your preference, just a question of what you like. On holsters that are for a gun with a light, you'll have an additional thing that's usually called a light channel, and the bezel, the tip of the flashlight, will be down here near the muzzle end. On most light-bearing holsters, because the light channel fully blocks out the entire area where the trigger guard would be, the retention is usually molded on the light itself. So on this holster, which is for a Surefire, the retention is molded right there behind the bezel of the light. On this holster, which is for a Streamlight, the retention is molded at a small notch on the underside of the light behind the bezel. So we covered sweat guard, muzzle, mouth. On a pancake holster, these are called the wings of the holster, and those will be where you mount your belt clips. There are lots of kinds of belt clips on the market. Different holster makers have their preference, and you'll want to buy belt clips that match the size of belt that you intend to carry with. Some holsters for inside the waistband will also have additional features molded in. You'll hear terms like a wing or a wedge. And really quickly, this is a wedge. It's a shape molded in on the back side of the holster to push the holster at a little bit of an angle so that this part lays flat against your body and the grip of the gun rotates slightly and lays closer to your body. This is a wing. This is also a wing. This wing is molded into the shell. This wing is a separate hardware component that's attached on the outside. What is blocking? My employee Eric just asked me. The term blocking means any shape that's added to the shape of the gun in order to make the holster fit a certain way. So if you're going to attach, in this case, we attach soft loops to this holster, you have to have holes or slots in the shell to attach them to, and there has to be hardware on the inside of the shell to attach the loops into. So these shapes are called blocking. And every holster maker adds whatever blocking they want to the gun mold in order to be able to add the attachments and change the fit the way that they want. So this holster, which has an attachment for a hook down near the muzzle, there's a piece of blocking there, there's blocking here, there's a piece of blocking to make this built-in wing. And then in all these cases, there's some blocking in here that fills in the trigger guard so that the dimple for retention is a shallow depth and a consistent size and shape. Another term you'll hear tossed around is tuckable versus non-tuckable. This is an example of a holster that's tuckable. It has two overhook clips that attach at the bottom, and so you have space behind them and space inside the clip for a belt to pass through. Tuckable simply means you can hook these onto a belt and then tuck a shirt in behind them to fully conceal the gun. The clip will still be visible on the belt, but the gun will be covered by the shirt. So this holster, because you can attach overhooks here, would be tuckable. This holster, which can only attach a belt clip up at the top, would not be tuckable. Other common terms that first-time holster buyers are sometimes confused by are OWB, IWB, and AIWB. And they're just acronyms. OWB means outside the waistband. It's designed to be worn outside the pants, usually attached to a belt. These are examples of OWB holsters, and this one. IWB is inside the waistband, and it's designed to be worn inside the waistband of the pants, usually with a belt attachment, a clip, a hook, or a snap loop that reaches over and then snaps onto or hooks onto the belt. AIWB is a particular kind of inside the waistband carry. It refers to appendix inside the waistband carry, which is more about position on your body. Appendix carry is in front of your hip. So if you're a right-handed shooter, it would be about 1 o'clock near the, around the, 1 to 2 o'clock on your front side. So that's the quick rundown on holster anatomy. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments. I wanted this to be a pretty quick overview of key terms and concepts for a novice holster buyer to start to orient themselves to what they're going to run into when they start shopping around and looking at what's on the market right now. Thanks. Have a great day.